Here we want to solve the equation sin x equal 3/8 and approximate the solutions which lie on the interval from 0 to 2 pi to 4 decimal places. So first of all, if I did the inverse sine of both sides, I would have x equals sine inverse of 3/8. Now remember that sine inverse is a function, a one-to-one function, and we're only going to get one solution out of that, where there are going to be other solutions that solve the original equation right here. So let's just make a sketch, and remember that when we do inverse sine, our calculator is going to give us angles from negative pi halves to pi halves. And since this sine value here, when we took the sine, we got a 3/8 is positive, we know we're going to get a solution somewhere in quadrant 1. So let's take the calculator and go ahead and get that. One of the things we want to be careful of is we want to make sure we're in the right mode. So I need to be in radians since I want solutions between 0 and 2 pi. When I do inverse sine, if I'm in degrees, it would give me something in degrees. So make sure we're in radians. And then I'm going to do inverse or second, and I'm going to hit the sign, and 3 divided by 8. And this gives me one solution in radians, and that's going to be 0.3844 rounded to 4 decimal places. So x equal 0.3844. Now that is not the only solution though between 0 and 2 pi, because we look around this circle over here in quadrant 2, there is an angle that has the same y value. Remember, sine is the y value, and that would be here in quadrant 2. So figuring out how I would get at that angle, this angle right here is 0.3844. Well, this angle is the same size, so I could do pi and subtract that angle. So I'm going to do pi minus 0.3844, and I will get that angle in quadrant 2 that solves. Now the calculator already has that in, so I'm just going to do pi minus, and then hit second to get the answer down here, and it'll find me that angle. And so that's going to be 2.7572 rounded to 4 decimal places. 2.7572. Okay, so we have our two solutions. There won't be any in quadrant 3 or 4 because sine values are negative there. But speaking of sine values negative there, looking at the second problem, if we did have a negative, so here I have sine x equals negative 3/8. Okay, so when I do the calculator, because it's negative, it's going to give me an angle that is down here in quadrant 4, but it will give it to me as a negative angle. Remember, this goes from negative pi halves to pi halves, and it's going to be that same size but negative. Now we could just, if we hadn't done this and this was the first problem we would do, we would find x equals sine inverse of negative 3/8, and then we would get the calculator to compute that. So we would do second or inverse sine, hit our negative button, and then 3 divided by 8, and that would give us our first one. And when I look at that, it's negative 0.3844, which that's what we could see that would have been, because it would have been the same thing except in the negative direction. But that's not a solution that we want, because we only want things between 0 and 2 pi. However, we could find a coterminal angle if we did 2 pi and then plus that angle, which was negative 0.3844. That would give us the angle that we want. It's coterminal with the one that the calculator found, but it's between 0 and 2 pi. So it's already in the calculator. I can just do plus 2 pi. So we get a loop around there and get a coterminal angle, and I get 5.8988. So first answer here, 5.8988. That's an angle in quadrant 4. However, there's another angle that has the same sine value, and that would be over here in quadrant 3, because you can see the y values are the same. So it's trying to see how I would get at that one. I can see that this much is pi, and then if I would add the size of that angle, I would have the whole angle. So I'm going to do pi plus the 0.3844, which was the size of this angle right here, and that will give me my second solution. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to have pi plus 0.3844. And that's going to give me 3.5260 rounded to 4 decimal places. So x equal 3.5260. So here's one solution. Here is the other solution. Those are all the solutions between 0 and 2 pi. And just be careful, if the computer asks you to enter smallest to largest, you would enter this one first and this one second.